everyone, this is Danielle, also known as Gently Smiling Jaws, and welcome to my Flosstube for July of 2026. I had already filmed about half of this video before I realized I never pressed record on the camera, although I had done press record on the audio recording. This time I am trying to shield the microphone a bit from the noise of the fan that's going on, so we'll see if it's better than last time. I know the sound was not where I had hoped it would be last time around, but since we're filming again, I will also make an attempt to kind of speak up a bit more in hopes that that will help as well. I'm going to talk about the tea that I am drinking this time, which I feel like I have drank and talked about on a previous video, but it's what I grabbed today. This is some GABA oolong from Floating Leaves Tea. Right now I opened up the foil package and put it in a now empty Tamina tea canister that it had tea bags in it in the past. There's the dry tea. The GABA part of GABA oolong, I don't fully know all the details. It's something to do with the way that it's processed and something with like nitrogen and getting the plant to produce something. There's what the leaves look like once they are brewed here. Some nice big leaves. Get it to focus. Maybe not. We'll see. There you go. And I guess there's supposed to be like some health benefits or something. Whenever a tea says there's health benefits, I stop listening to that. I don't care. I don't drink tea for health benefits. I drink tea because I like the taste. And I'm not gonna drink anything because it's supposed to give me this or that or be like a diet tea or anything. I don't care. I drink a tea because I like how it tastes. If I don't like how it tastes, I don't drink it. It's simple as that. This tea, like I mentioned, it's from Floating Leaves. Floating Leaves is a local vendor who is typically, if I want oolong, that's who I go to. They specialize in Taiwanese oolongs, and if you're interested in either, if you like oolong or you want to try oolong, I would recommend checking them out. There was an email that had just gone out from them recently where they mentioned that unfortunately they are going to be closing their retail space here in Seattle, but they're going to be kind of switching over to an online only shop. I mean, they have an online shop already, but that's going to be their focus, and I am sad for them to hear that part of things, but glad that they are still here. For me, I generally buy from them online or at the tea festival here in Seattle anyway, so I just want them to be around because I enjoy buying from them. And this time I am drinking tea in a mug like I often do for videos, and in a case like this, because how I typically brew a lot of my teas is it's in kind of small brewing vessel, and you're doing multiple short steeps of tea. So I did a number of steeps to kind of fill up this mug, which is now has a good portion of it gone since I thought I was filming for quite some time and was drinking this tea. But when I had introduced a coworker to Floating Leaves, and she after that went to their shop and bought some tea from them, the comment that she had made, which I fully agree with, is that obviously a tea like this is going to be more expensive than if you just buy tea bags or something like that. But you are brewing these leaves over and over and over again, and it takes a long time before the flavor is depleted. And her comment to me was something along the lines of, I don't care how much this tea costs, these leaves are still going, and I'm, still steeping them, and it is a great value. And that is with both, like oolong from floating leaves, or with, like a lot of pu'er. That is how I feel about this tea, is that yes, the tea, and there's a wide range of prices on stuff, and some of the more expensive tea is, yes, it's more expensive, but you are using those leaves over and over again. At the same time, I drink plenty of tea in tea bags as well, and plenty of inexpensive tea, and I think that as long as you like the tea that you're drinking and are enjoying it, then that's great, and there's nothing wrong with that. And just like, although I am drinking the tea this way, bring it this way, if I'm drinking, kind of tea like this, because I brought in some of the floating leaves tea to work too. And sometimes what I'm doing at work is I just have a mug there, and I'm just dumping some loose leaf tea into the mug, adding hot water, and just drinking around the leaves, and those leaves, can keep going for days before, I then chuck them out. But yeah, there's all kinds of tea, and drink the tea you like, brew it the way that makes you happy, and just enjoy it. The other thing I wanted to mention that's cross-stitch related before getting into my cross-stitch for the month is, if you're not following Stitchy Princess Black on Instagram, check her out, give her a follow. Although I have not stitched one of her patterns yet, and I'm hoping once I'm starting new patterns again, I think I'm going to be starting one of hers amongst whatever I start. But she is a cross-stitch designer from Ukraine. She posts a lot about kind of what her and her family are going through, and she had at the time I'm filming this, she had a recent post about it being her husband's birthday, and they're under shelling right now, and give her account a follow if you're in a position to buy some patterns. Maybe check out her shop and see if there's any you want to buy, because I know that helps her out. So wanted to mention that. I just bought a couple patterns from her recently, although I haven't gotten around to stitching any of hers. I wanted to kind of help her out. So all right, so since my last video, I think this kind of past month, maybe at least as far as me keeping, for when I've been keeping track, and I know at least since the beginning of the year, this has been my best stitching month numbers wise. And I know that that's not going to last as we get further into the year, because right now my schedule is such that I have more time during the summer to stitch. That's not going to stay the same as we get further into the year, and I've got some things coming up that may kind of prevent me from stitching as much. So I'm enjoying this window of time for what it is. I'm happy with the progress that I'm making, and I'm happy with how this whole touching all my whips has been working out for the year. As I've mentioned before, I didn't go into the year with this as my plan, but I knew I wanted to finish things, and I was feeling a little overwhelmed by my number of whips, which at the start of the year was in the 30s, which for some people that's nothing. For other people may look at it and think, oh, that's a ton. Everybody has kind of their own limits for things and what they feel overwhelmed by. And for me, I was reaching my point of feeling a bit overwhelmed in that I wanted to see progress on things. I didn't feel like I was getting enough in the way of finishes, particularly because you know, I stitch some things that are smalls, but not a lot. So I have a lot of things that I was making a little bit of progress on, but not seeing a ton of progress. And I wanted to get things finished. So this year sort of became me wanting to touch all my WIPs and finish as many things as I could. There's plenty of stuff I'm not going to finish this year, but I have already made, you know, I've made a lot of progress in finishing things and making dents in my existing WIPs, and I feel good about that. I am at a happier place in my stitching than I was at the beginning of the year. So let's go over what I've got. Some of this being round 2 for me, since I had not pressed record. Okay. In my last video, the last piece that I had worked on was Birds to the Boughs by Lindy Stitches. After I filmed that, I worked on it a bit more and put in an additional 503 stitches. The additional stuff was down in this area, and now I've got the whole height of this done. I've got plenty to do going that way, but I feel like I've made a good dent in it so far. As far as how I've worked on things this year, I will pick something up, work on it for however long I want to work on it, and then it gets set aside and not touched again until I get through everything. I am hoping that by the time I do a video for September, I will have worked through all of my WIPs. Even if that is not the case, this is a piece I will pick up again in September, because this piece, although I feel like last year I think last year I finished this bird here and did some additional, but this is a piece I am working on sort of in honor of my parents, and so this always gets picked up around in June, although this went in, a bit into this video for July as well. It gets picked up then because of Father's Day and my mom's birthday, and then in September because of my dad's birthday. So this one will get touched again this year, even if just for a little bit. But yeah, some additional progress made on this, which I am happy about. So it's been slow going because I started this some time ago. In fact, this was started on my dad's birthday in 2023. So it's been in progress for going on 3 years, and there's a long way to go, but I always enjoy working on it when I do pick it up. All right. Next piece is Roladex Mourning Sampler by Bendy Stitchy. This is on 40 count Graveyard Mist Linen by Lappin Loops. I put in 1,756 stitches. Most of that was in kind of finishing up this ground area here. I still have more like tombstones to put in, and I got part of this gate done. I still have quite a bit left to do, including the willow leaves that I'm saving for last, but made a good dent in this, and it had been a while since I had picked it up. Part of me wishes I had used a different fabric, just because this Graveyard Mist really is, kind of a mist. It's very lightly colored, and part of me thinks I should have gone for a stronger colored fabric, but I'm fine with it, once I had started and had gotten as far as I had, I certainly wasn't changing it or finishing it up. And yeah, so I was happy to make a chunk of progress on this one as well. And although I have a considerable amount left to go, I forget what I'm looking at stitch-wise. So although I don't think this is something I will be finishing up yet this year, I'm hoping that a finish is not too far off in the future. Maybe it's something that, I can look at finishing next year. We'll see. All right. Next piece, I decided to work on my artsy housewife pieces that I have. This is Dark Golden Delicious, which I am stitching on 36 count Evil Queen linen by Bestitch Me, stitching 1/2 with the Vicky Clayton Silks color conversion. So I've got the Vicky Clayton Silks that I'm using. There are spools in there. And I put in 2,097 stitches. And what I did was the bulk of this house as well as the bird on top. And, I had a little bit going on the house, but I decided, when I went to pick this up, I thought I'm going to finish the house. So I did, the house, and then I saw there was the bird on the top, and I'm like, I'm going to go ahead and do the bird too. That's not all that much more. So, I was actually, kind of really happy with how this was going, and I was considering doing even more, like the moon that's to the side of the bird here. I thought about doing that, but I was still pretty early on in the stitching for this month, and I was like, I've got a number of other projects to touch, and I've put in over 2,000 stitches. Maybe I should move on to something else. And so that is what I did, but I'm very happy with how this is looking. I was thinking back, trying to figure out whether I had actually stitched any other house in a cross-stitch pattern before, because I know having a house in a cross-stitch pattern is a really common thing. And I came to the conclusion that the only other building I think that I have stitched is in the Cottage Garden Samplings, first Year in the Woods, the raccoon one, where there's a little house or church or something. And I think that's the only other building that I've stitched, at least as far as I can remember. Maybe I'm forgetting something, but that's the only building that comes to mind. So I think this is my first proper house, kind of big house in a cross-stitch thing, because that other, in the raccoon one, the building is really small. So, yeah. This is a house like this. Not something I'm going to want to stitch all the time, but I enjoyed it this time. So, plenty more stitching to do on this. Still a long ways until the end, but I feel good about the progress made on this. And actually, that's kind of the way I feel about a lot of my stitching this month, is that I feel like I made a good dent in the things that I picked up. Some more than others, but it's a good amount of progress. The next artsy housewife that I picked up is actually the project that I worked on the most this month. I put in the most stitches. This is Within a Dream, which I started on this back when it was released on Patreon. My Patreon memberships kind of jump around, and I've cut back a lot on them. So I'm not currently a member of her Patreon, but I got the pattern when it was released on Patreon, and I saw the Roxy Floss conversion. So this is the Roxy Floss, the linen and the floss conversion for this pattern. And this is a 46 count fabric. There's a lot left to do. When I was filming, before I realized I wasn't filming, I looked, and I think I'm at, with where I got this month, I am at like 23 point something %. So I'm not even a quarter of the way through on this. This was slow going because it's for this 46 count fabric, even though it's lighter than some of the other 46 count fabric that I have used. Even with my lighted magnifier, I was finding it a little tough and slow going, and I was working to make sure that my stitches looked nice, and they're certainly not perfect, but I was trying to focus on getting them to look good. The other thing that I wanted to mention about this is that I have very slightly tweaked the pattern, and I did it on the fly. I should have thought about it a little more, but I like corvids, but I like crows better than ravens, and I was trying to adjust the bill just slightly so it looked a little less raven-like and a little more crow-like. However, I think it now looks more duck or goose-like, but I'm not going to change it. I should have thought about it more before I did it, but I'm not going to go back and try and take anything out or change anything more. It just is how it is, and this is a goose, duck, raven, bird. Maybe it's a graven or a ruck or I don't know, but I made the bill look a little weird, and that's just how it's gonna stay. So, oh well, it's mine, and it's more unique, and it just is what it is. So, yeah. But this is the first time I have picked this up in quite a while, and I really wanted to make a good dent in it, and there's plenty more that needs to be done. There's a lot of stitching in the body of the bird, and then further down there's the skull and like grass, and this border is like, a thick full coverage border, so there's a lot left to do, but I feel like I made a good bit of progress on this, which makes me happy. So, we have now reached the point in which I realized I wasn't filming in my first go around. So from here on out, it's all brand new. All right. Next is a finish. I had 2 finishes this month, although I suppose one is a partial finish. This is a finish. This is Plants and Petrichor by Fine Frog Stitching. I started this back when it was a stitch along, and for a period of time I kept up with it, and I was doing a good job, and then something knocked me off course, and I just didn't finish it. And I knew that I didn't have a ton left, and so when I was looking at things that I wanted to just finish this year and get off my plate, this was one of them. So I put in 1,880 stitches to finish it. And here we go. This is on, this is whatever the called for Ada is from Witch's Garden Crafts. I think it is the 16 or 18 count Ada. I could, I was gonna look at my card for this, and I realized because this was finished, I didn't bring the bag in for this. But yeah, I am done with it. I am happy with it, and I am glad to have this one wrapped up. And I don't know why it took me so long to get back to working on this. Yeah, and I've talked before how sometimes things like stitch-alongs, when there's something I'm supposed to do, I will rebel against that and just not want to do it. And I think that I had kind of reached that point with this and just kind of stopped. But I am glad to have it done now, and I enjoyed working on it the last bit to wrap it up. Yeah, there was another was it the Femurs and Fungi Sal, which I think I started that just as that Sal was finishing. I did that just before this Sal. So I decided I was going to do it. I got the supplies, ordered, the fabric and everything. And once I got it, I think within a month, I finished that entire thing, and then went and got the stuff to do this one. Yeah, so that was enjoyable, and that is for this month my first finish. And next is my second finish, which is, it's both a finish and a partial finish because it's part of a larger thing that I'm doing. So this is a project that I started that I don't know if I'm going to entirely finish what I had planned to do, but I am at least finishing this portion of it. So Lindy Stitches has the Air Mail series, and I was going to do a book of stamps, and that was sort of my plan, and I was getting the patterns and everything, and because of the order that they were released in, the April one, which goes here, was the last one to be released. And so because I was going to do these in order, I was going to do kind of pages for this book, so it was going to be the first ones, this page, and so that kind of held me up a little bit, and I kind of lost momentum, and I wasn't able to charge ahead when I was fully gung-ho on everything. I have lost some steam, but I at least want to finish this, and then I'll see what I do for the rest. So we've got January, February, March, April will go here. January is what I finished for this month. I put in 1,562 stitches to finish the January pattern with the quail there. This around the edge, I have partially finished this border, which is my own little, kind of like doing little feathers to sort of make it look like the border on an airmail envelope. And yeah, as I was doing everything, I realized I had miscounted, and this was something I realized a while ago, was that I thought that I had placed things so that there would be like one stitches, kind of space between each of these patterns, but actually they butt up right against each other, which is not what I had intended. And so when I realized I made that mistake, I was a little irritated at myself for that. So that was another thing that kind of has me, I don't know whether I'm gonna kind of finish everything or not, but because I'm this far, I am at least going to finish that one there. So this is my finish, the January pattern here, but the project, whether it's bigger than this or just this, has more to go before it's done. So I'm counting this as, it's a finish, it's a partial finish, but that's my second finish for this month. And you know, progress is progress. And that fabric is 40 count white clay linen by Fox and Rabbit. All right. Next is my only pattern from the blue flower that I have going right now, and it's one that I've had in progress for some time. Let me pull out the card here. I started this in October of 2023. This is Strawberry Bird in a strawberry bag. And I put in 948 stitches. I did some more of the main thing I did was I had a bunch of vine done, and there was areas where there were strawberries were supposed to go, which I had not done yet. And so I added in strawberries in kind of all the spaces on the vine that I had done at the start of when I was working on this. Since then I added some more in, so like a strawberry goes there, and I haven't done it yet. But and there were strawberries where I didn't have the little seed spots filled in, and I have filled in on those. So there's more I need to do. I think I'm maybe about halfway on this as far as stitching. What I haven't touched yet at all is the birds, which is kind of what drew me to the pattern in the first place, and they're kind of what I'm looking forward to stitching the most. So I've, you know, kind of like with the willow leaves on the other pattern, I've been holding off wanting to do the birds closer to the end. I think I'm not going to be waiting till the very end to work on them, but I've been holding off. I've been doing more of the plants. I did that flower down there this time, so I, you know, got a dent into this. This is fabric I think is Grog by Bestitch Me, and this is one I want to you know, get more done on, and I don't know whether I will get back to finishing this up this year. Hopefully I will finish it next year. I don't know, maybe not. It's one I've had sitting out for a long time, and I would like to see it done, and it just hasn't happened yet. But you know, hey, close to 1,000 stitches is progress, so happy with that. Okay, the last piece I worked on this month is Cittlewick Green by Rosewood Manor, which I started in January of 2025. Here's the pattern there. Because I use Pattern Keeper, I don't like working from paper patterns, and so I spent a long time getting this pattern into getting it into Pattern Keeper. It ended up, I have it in like sections, because with the way these are done, I discovered that there's one pattern that the stitch height on the chart in here is like one stitch off from the other, you know, kind of pattern sections on the pages, and so I couldn't get Pattern Keeper to combine everything into one pattern. So I think in Pattern Keeper I have like two or three different chart sections on this, but that's fine. I put in 610 stitches. I would have liked to get in a little bit more on this, but I had other stuff going on in this last bit that I was working on this, and I didn't get in quite as much as I would like, and I think I am sort of ready to move on for now to the other things that I need done. So when I started this, I did an upper left start, and for this month, those 610 stitches finished off the letter D, and then I have O, P, Q, and started just a bit on the R. I think there's a little bit of stitching that I did in these kind of flowery, viney section there. So not a huge amount of progress, but still some progress. And I am stitching this with, this is on a 40 count Cyprium Newcastle linen. I'm stitching 1/2 using the Vicky Clayton silk conversion. And yeah, so I've got the silk pack there, and working my way through. I am much more interested in the lower band with, again, there's houses, so I'll be stitching more houses and birds and trees. The alphabet part of this is probably kind of the least interesting to me, but I guess since I started with that as I work across, I will get that out of the way and be able to focus on the parts of this that I enjoy more. This is another one with the, kind of, I think the silk itself is a little more cream colored than, stark white, but I am trying to make my white stitches look nice. They are far from perfect, but trying my best. Doesn't look too bad, but hopefully I will see a lot of improvement by the time I have done the entire alphabet here. So yeah, this is one where the part that I'm working on now, doesn't terribly excite me, but as I get further into it, there's things I should enjoy more, and I'm looking forward to when I have this fully finished, because I think it will look very nice, but I'm under no illusions that will be happening anytime soon. So, this way here. So as I went over all the stitching that I have done this month, I have put in a total of 11,846 stitches, which maybe in the past I had some months where I had done more, but off the top of my head, I don't know whether that has happened or not. I know that at least as far as this year goes, this is been my best month of stitching. So happy about that. Don't know how much longer I will have my numbers at this level. I mean, I'm hoping that once I touch all my whips, I will be, inspired to start at least a couple, new things. And that will kind of keep me motivated to keep going, and I can get back to some of these whips that I want to do more on. But I may lose my stitchy bug again for a while, and if that happens, then just work through it until it comes back, because things like this, they ebb and flow, and that's just the way it is. So I had 2 finishes for this month. So right now I'm sitting on between all the finishes, whether they are what I'm considering a full or a partial finish. I am still noting them all down in the list. So I am at 12 for the year, and that's not bad. I have no idea how many things I finished last year. I know that it wasn't that many at all. I'm not somebody who has a ton of finishes to begin with, but I feel like I have been making progress, knock some things off of this list. And right now, I have 6 whips left to touch. One of those is something that I should be able to finish, which is my temperature chart for last year. I just have to finish doing the stitching for the actual temperatures. The rest, what I have left to touch besides my own temperature chart are my long dogs and ink circles. I might be able to touch everything in the next month before the next video. We'll see. I'm not guaranteeing that's gonna happen. I'm not sure how much I'm gonna put into kind of each of those pieces, because they're ones that have a lot of stitches, the long dogs in particular. So we'll see how those go. We'll see what happens. What I am hoping is that if I can touch everything, or mostly everything, that by the time I get to the video for September is kind of my goal to kind of be done with this whole work on all the whips, because September is when I have some travel going on, and I know I'm not going to be stitching as much that month. And my goal is that if I'm able to get the stuff done, then my September video will be kind of a whip parade, maybe a combination of whip parade and finish parade of how this whole touch every whip project has gone from the start of the year until now. So I'm hoping that that's something that I would be able to film in such a way that I can get all of that prepped and ready for when the video is going to go up at the end of the month, because I know I'm going to have a lot going on in September where I am not stitching too much. And so hoping to be able to, although the video won't be up till the end of the month like all my videos are, that I can wrap up the filming and editing for that early on in the month, get that scheduled so I can do everything else I need to do that month, and then starting in kind of after that point, then I can just do what I want as far as starting new things and all of that. We'll see. We'll see how that goes. But that's sort of how I have things, kind of planned out in my head for my stitching for the next little bit. The end is in sight as far as tackling all the whips, and I think that's a good thing. And I've been very happy with how all this has been, progressing so far. I feel like I've finished things, and knocking things off the list has felt really good. And I'm at a point where I don't want a ton of more whips, but there are things that I would like to do that I'm kind of getting excited and looking forward to when I'm going to allow myself to start doing whips again. Or not whips, but a new start. And it was never, going into this, I didn't have any kind of rule set up for that, but I feel like, particularly being so close to the end, that's just something I want to stick to. I want to touch all these whips, and then the reward will be I can do whatever I want. I can start whatever I want. However many things I want to start, I can do that. And the other thing was it wasn't so much a plan going into the year. I mean, I knew I had wanted to cut back on spending on cross stitch stuff because I have a bunch of stuff in stash, and so I need to be buying stuff, particularly if I wasn't starting new things. So I didn't kind of go into the year trying to do a no buy, and it hasn't been completely a no buy, but I think at least at this point, the only things that I have bought as far as cross stitch related things this year was in May, when Carolyn Manning had her sale on patterns. I bought patterns from her. When I did the finishing of the Reflections of Paris, I bought the frame for that piece, and framed it. And then the patterns that I just bought from Stitchy Princess Black the other day. I think that is the only cross-stitch spending that I have done so far this year. Not to say I won't be spending more on it, later on, but I'm happy with that, because using things in my stash will be a good thing. There's some of the things I want to start. I know of at least one thing I want to start where I don't own the pattern for it. And I'll have to look and see, once I'm ready to start things, whether I've got stuff in stash that I can use as far as fabric and floss for doing that the way that I want it. We'll see when the time comes. All right, now that's the end of the cross stitch stuff, and on to books. So the first book that I read this month, and this is all stuff I've gotten from the library through the Libby app, and I've been doing audiobooks because for me right now, audiobooks work better for me than physical books, because I can listen to them while I'm cross stitching or doing other things. Am I going to sneeze here? One moment. I guess not. And I'm somebody where in the past audiobooks did not work for me. My mind would wander too much, and occasionally, I think in my last video I talked about there was some books that I listened to where my mind was wandering some, and some shorter books that I read and my focus wasn't there. But it's been working well for the books I have read recently. I had started off with Birth Vibes by Jen Hamilton, and this is a book that I read because I like Jen Hamilton, and I follow her accounts, and I like her sense of humor. Then that was what drew me to it, because it was not the subject matter itself, because I am never somebody who wanted to have kids. This information is not going to be applicable to my own life in any way, but it was learning things, and learning something is never wasted. So I enjoyed going through the book, and her sense of humor and all of that. So I would certainly recommend giving it a read or listen, particularly if it's something that is going to apply to you. It will be much more useful to you than it was to me, but I found it enjoyable nonetheless. The next, let's see, 3 books, and the fourth, which I am currently in the midst of, are the Natalie Keller Reinert Eventing series books. I had, a couple months back, I had read the first one. It was something where I had, kind of like requested for the Libby app to let me know if my library got these books in, and apparently other people had, enough other people had made a request that the library kind of started off with, had gotten the initial book from the series, and then I went and read it, and apparently other people did too, and then they got the rest of the series, and then other books from this author as well. So I'd already read the first one, so this is the second, third, fourth, and I am on the fifth of the 8 books in this particular series, and then the author has some other series, I think, that are kind of interconnected as well. So now that I've gone through more of these books, it's sort of become clear that it is, because when the first book that I read and I decided I was going to keep going, the main character is young, like I think in her early 20s, and she's not a very likable person. And I decided to just, kind of keep going with it, but now it's clear that we're going to have a character arc of her growing up and maturing and becoming a better person, which is not a bad thing. So the gist of this is, it's a book about someone who is doing 3-day eventing with horses. So it's a discipline in which you are doing dressage, jumping, and cross country. And books, not the best books in the entire world, but they are a very quick listen and are enjoyable enough to keep me entertained. Going into it, and what had drawn me to this in the first place is I had seen some like advertisement on a website I was looking at, which was describing this as like some 3-day eventing romance series, and I'm not a romance reader, and but I was intrigued, and so I gave it a listen. And what I have seen so far is that the romance element to things is pretty darn low, which is either going to be a plus or a minus to you depending on what you want to read. For me, I don't care so much. I'm fine with where things are at on that, and I've just been, kind of enjoying it. Like I said, they're going along sort of like, potato chips, just going through one. Like I said, I'm like halfway through the one that I'm on now, and then just have a couple more to wrap things up, and then I don't know if I'm going to go on to any of her other series just yet. We'll see. The one thing, and this is where I will get into some things that are a bit spoilery, if you care about that or not, it's not a huge thing, is that throughout these books there is sort of a subplot which has cropped up that has to do with inheritance. And when that came up, I wanted more of that, while also knowing that I wasn't going to get it. I am pretty darn sure it's going to, before the end of this series, it's going to crop up again, and things are going to happen, and we're going to have a happy ending when it comes to that. How that's going to work out, I am not sure, because from the limited facts we have been given in this book, I don't see how that is going to play out in a way that is going to make logical sense, but I am curious to see what happens. But because that kind of cropped up and got my interest going, I'm like, give me more of this. I want more of this. And what I think is going to sort of fulfill that for me is that there's another book which I have had kind of out there as something that I have wanted to read, and in fact, I think kind of last year my hold had come through, and I kept, suspending it because I wasn't ready for it just yet. But there is a book called Trust by Hernan Diaz, which I have heard good things about, and it is about, I don't know a lot, but apparently it is about very rich people and all of their wealth, and I'm assuming trust funds and things like that, and that may be what I go to after I finish up this series. We will see. But I don't know. I think this plot point in the eventing books came up in, what was it, like the second book, maybe? Second book? Third book? I don't remember exactly. They're all blending one into another, because basically I finish one, I grab the next one from the library and start in on it right away, so everything is just blending together, which, is fine. But when there is a will that says something goes to somebody, with the information we have been given in this book, I don't see how you can't really fight against that, and I'm kind of curious to see how that is going to, if things play out in sort of the way I think they're going to play out. I am curious as to the mechanism for how that happens, and whether I will be happy with that or not. Because maybe it will end up working out in a way that I like, but I have a feeling, well, we'll see. I have a feeling that it is something that will make me angry. we will see. Plenty of the horse stuff in this. With my level of horse knowledge, I've been okay. I'm sure that there's people out there that have, far more knowledge than me, and maybe there's things in the book that they don't like, and maybe they have an accuracy issue with it or something. For me, that's not an issue, but this other area is an area where maybe I'll have an issue, but that's assuming things go along in the way that I am guessing they will. We'll see. Either way, it's been a pleasant enough, diversion that I've been happy going through those books. Okay, I think that is everything I wanted to cover in this video. We're at about close to an hour, so that's working out pretty good. Thank you for being here. Thank you for watching, and I will see you in the August video. Bye.